it's a weird way to start a video, but the only cause of burnout, I truly, truly, truly stand by this, is compromise. Before we get to even defining compromise, I want to set the context of where I'm coming from as someone who has, I would say, been burned out for the large part of his adult life. I don't know why I'm talking in third person. I've been burned out for a long time. And I have watched and associated with other people who have been burned out. And I absolutely adore these people, not because they burned out, but because when we were all doing our thing, I connected most deeply with how they worked, how they moved through life. And then we all burned out. And so I can only talk really about my experience, but something that has given me a lot of energy is realizing, truly taking to heart that my experience is not unique. There are so many people in this world who I know feel the same way that I do. Not only feel, but are living in the same or similar circumstances. Like me, they may not have guidance. Like me, they may never ask for it or even want it, and I totally stand by that. But some of us are lucky to have time and time again space, life, vital energy to really dig down into the whys. Because for me, asking the why has been the only way out of dark places. I need to know the holistic meaning of something. And I can already hear a voice, a kind of patriarchal voice. Could also be just like a really strict teacher or advisor or whatever, being like, don't ask why. Don't be obsessed with meaning, with fitting everything together. And I took that advice for a long time. And I just kept moving and just kept losing more and more energy, or leaking more and more energy, until finally I collapsed. I believe meaning is not just a fancy of the philosophically minded. I believe meaning is our very continence, substance, our structure, our fortification, our immune system. I believe that holism, or connecting all the parts, is the only way that we can recognize what is energizing us and what is depleting us. And it's impossible to know all the variables. I mean, even inside of our own bodies, we don't know what's going on. We can externalize it, we can understand it from diagrams, but we generally don't have the sensitivity to even understand these processes, let alone the complexity of what else is out there. But I do believe that there are, for the foil, or let's say the balance to all of this complexity, is that some things are very simple. Burnout is loss of energy. Loss of energy means that energy is going somewhere. If you sit in meditation and you're fidgeting, you become, and if you cognize this, within minutes, you realize that you have a lot of energy. And I think there are people who for many reasons. It could be toxins plus lifestyle plus environment, all of these things. They're really working from a very low point of energy. But I'm speaking about people who mask as like highly functioning, ambitious people who, when they go home at night or when they wake up, they just dread. They cannot get themselves to move. So back to the title of the video, the only cause of burnout is compromise. I want to talk about what compromise means to me, knowing full well that if it means this to me, it probably will resonate with somebody else. Compromise is assuming that there are things you want to do and things you have to do. Compromise is drawing a line between responsibilities and obligations and proactive, or let's say intrinsic motivations. So extrinsic and intrinsic motivations. Compromise is that tug of war in between those poles. And as we know, a little bit of tug of war is good for the back and the biceps and the legs. But if this is a perpetual state of being, it only ends in one way. You get pulled apart and then trampled. Or if you lose your grip, you get a big burn on your hand and then you get trampled. Or if the other team lets go, you fall down and then you get trampled. Or if they pull really hard, you get pulled into them and then you get trampled. The common thread or the common bodily threat there is tramplation. Trampling? I don't know, whatever. Definitely not trampoline. That is what we want to be doing. We want to be on the trampoline. So first we can identify, and this is like a step-by-step process. I mean, first there's the entertainment of this as an idea. There's playing with this hypothesis and looking at one's life and seeing, okay, well, what am I doing that is out of obligation? What am I doing that is truly for myself? And I put that in air quotes because I think there's a lot to unpack around like selfish motivations and things that we need to focus on that can actually expand out into great service. That's another topic. Well, everything's connected, but I don't want to go there right now. I really want to go back to something else, because in our own lives, it's so hard to even experience what life could be like without compromise as like the foundation of it. And a lot of us we're not really tethered to too much, but we feel that we are. We feel that our attention gets pulled into social media, or that we have to see people. Maybe that is one of the energy giving things, in which case, there are a lot of examples that might be more or less relevant for you. I think the main ones for most people is having a job that you don't enjoy. And I want to bookmark that as well, because I think it's a bit more nuanced than that. There's maybe family obligations. There's, a lot of this is wrapped up in money. There's health. So there's, health, bodies. And the list goes on. But I want to offer one more level as well, because something that has been really helpful for me is to depersonalize my experience, because I lived pretty much my entire life thinking that I had to be someone else, because I just couldn't find examples of myself out there. And it's taken many years to build up the energy to show up as that example for myself. And there's something deeply depersonalizing and personalizing about that, because I realize I'm doing it to survive, but I'm also doing it because if by any chance I can be that for someone else, then I will have done something worthwhile in this lifetime, because I wouldn't wish it upon anybody to feel utterly alone since childhood. And I say alone, I have amazing friends. I have amazing family. And I have all my needs taken care of on the hierarchy of needs, like shelter, food, all these things. And so I always downplayed the importance of emotional support, and not even just emotional, but spiritual support. Like the things that really motivated me, I couldn't find examples of other people being motivated by the same things. And that was really hard. And it's like, I don't want to be petty about this because I have so much. And why am I suffering? Is it fair for me to suffer? I should just not pay attention to this. That's the unhealthy kind of depersonalization. The healthy kind of depersonalization is saying, okay, you know what? Let's be honest with ourselves. Let's recognize that I am not alone in this world. The only thing is that I have not been forthcoming with who I really am for this latent fear, or maybe it's not latent, but a very present fear that no one will understand me. And so there's this catch-22 of like, I'm not going to express myself because no one will understand me. I'm getting out of that now. I don't even really need other people to understand me. I just want to understand myself, and I want to be self-consistent. And this is one of the angles of compromise that I think is maybe even more fundamental than when we think of compromise as obligations versus intrinsic motivations and things like that. It's the tug of war in ourselves. Are we lying to ourselves? Are we deceiving ourselves? Are we every day changing course and basically pulling ourselves apart? And never minimize the realness of that and the severity of it. Because even if those forces that you're in a tug of war with, even if you can't see them, in some ways they're even more massive than the things you can see. They're more insidious, and one should be even more vigilant against the invisible forces. Now, I just got a ping in my head of like, is this going to make sense to anybody? Whatever. It makes sense to me. And if this is getting a bit esoteric, it's only going to get more esoteric. No. I want to go back a little bit because I also want to bring in another angle or another layer of compromise that again is on this more fundamental level. And that's that, okay, goes back to the depersonalization. We do not live in a bubble. We might try and build bubbles, It seems like humanity is a long chain of bubble builders, but we literally are the expression of elements that are found everywhere in everything in this universe. Like everything that is outside of us is also partially inside of us. Just speaking on scientific terms, like we are, there's in the material sense, there's nothing in us that isn't somewhere else out there and that doesn't come from somewhere else out there. And we are just an alchemical formation of those different elements. And therefore, I truly believe that we can't avoid feeling somehow connected to the balance of the world. And so much of what we engage in on a daily basis is the worst compromise. We are literally taking raw ingredients, burning them up. I mean, I'm talking about fuel, but I'm talking about everything, like across the whole spectrum of human productivity and creation. We're basically making things that are ingredients that are also part of, like, I would say, like the body or the immune system or the foundation of our earth, and we're turning them into things that are useless. Like, useless because it seems like everything I have a tendency to kind of speak in generalization, so I need to watch myself, but so much of what we do is literally to, like, move around in circles, to poison ourselves, to kill each other. And even if we're not directly connected to any of those activities, if our work gets leveraged towards that, or towards, basically powering war machines, building and then just destroying, and then building and then destroying, moving shit around, filling deserts with, I don't know, like fake lawns, or like moving sand around the globe. It's everything that we're facing now, this like existential dread of real total collapse of our climate. What was it all for? We got to a point in our civilization where we could actually experience leisure, I don't even know anymore, whatever, both of them. That's how big it is. Like, leisure time is new for us. And what it's become is an amplification for destruction, because we're out of sync with the potential, the satisfaction, the intrinsic motivations of, like, tapping into the humanness of enjoying learning, of exploring, and not just running around the earth and flying everywhere and eating everything and, shitting everywhere. Like, I don't mean that kind of exploring, because that feels dead inside. I mean really exploring the things that are real mysteries, like ourselves, like our minds. This is the promise of leisure time. Like, we have a chance to really get curious about ourselves and our world in a way that is not just tearing it apart. And if we spend our lives justifying that our job is doing some good, or that it gets us paid so we can travel or whatever, it feels like we're just kind of running in circles and then we die. We're kind of like tricking ourselves, but we're too the problem is we're on some hands we're not that intelligent, but on other hands we are intelligent when the whole body, oh my god, I keep doing that, when the whole body is an intelligent organ, intelligent sense organ, a holistic sense organ, and I mean all of it together. When we really tap into that, we are hyper intelligent in the sense that we know what is stupid and what is actually helping us grow. And these terms have been so perverted. I wish there were other terms we could use, but not growth in the sense of like a viral growth. I mean growth in the sense of connecting the dots, not leaving things in the dark, not trying to push things down, but really trying to pull things up. And I think it's so important that we don't, we use our burnout or our energy as compasses to realign, I hate that word, but realign with first, like, not just losing everything, because I think we're really at risk of losing everything. For what? And in this time that we have to not just play out this drama of I wish I had done this or that, like anything that stands in the way of you being a human, a curious human on a vector of growth, is a compromise that you should not be taking. And we know, back to the tug of war example, there's only one way out of compromise if you don't completely move away from it. It's being trampled either slowly or quickly by lots of little people or a few large people. I don't know where or whom you're tugging of war with, or massive invisible entities that have, pointy club feet. I don't know. I guess that's it. I just really needed to say that and also hear myself say it. So if you listen to all that, thanks.